Greetings and welcome to the Perfect Balance Chart class, the place where like-minded and conscious-minded individuals are guided towards the full development of their potential through collective reasoning. We have Yaga, aka Teacher Ma'at. We have Bingi,
Read them.
Okavango, the Rebel Guru, and I am yours truly, Ras Dada, and we are the Perfect Balance Chart class. Oh yeah.
Yes,
thanks.
that's
Yeah, man.
right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Grand
Great,
Rising, you
great,
know?
great friends. You know,
Grand
Grand
Rising.
Rising, my lad. Wanna make mention that we have attained 300 subscribers, and we're ecstatic about it. And we're
Yeah, man, the
eager
thing I
to
go
see
on.
this number grow. We're happy for those people who value this content and who value these ideologies and who value positive Pan-Africanist views. Thank you for your support and keep supporting, keep watching, keep liking, keep sharing, and as we grow from strength to strength. This week, our topic of discussion will be a big topic, controversial topic that more often than not get the blood pumping and the hearts racing because there's so much emotion and passion attached to these, and sometimes for the wrong reasons. Our topic this week will be God and religion and how it impacts African lives. Before we go into this, I wrote a disclaimer which I want to read. Set your face good, Okavango.
Why a disclaimer? Why a disclaimer?
Yeah.
I don't have a bad
Why
grade, by the way.
disclaimer?
Yes.
When I read it, we can talk about the disclaimer.
Listen, I
Okay.
don't have a bad grade, by the way. I don't have a bad grade, by the way.
All right,
Then I will have a
all right,
good grade.
Bubas. The views of this Strud class are in no way expressed in an offensive or hateful manner. Our intentions are not to demean, belittle, or negate any individual's view on these topics. Our intentions are, however, to create a platform based on free expression where people are able to, without fear of ridicule, voice their views, ideologies, and opinions on whatever topics, issues, or reasonings which the Trad class may boast or host on that day. Hotep, peace, and content. So that is my disclaimer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, we
We
like the
just
disclaimer, man.
want to share an African perspective in the dialogue, so that our people can just find themselves and be the champions who they are and realize that we are greatness too. Once upon
Yes,
a
sir.
time, we were a great nation.
We
And
are
a lot of people came
We
and
are a
learned
great
from us and they never credited us
Thank
as
you.
their teachers. But our master teachers like Dr. Yusuf Ben Jokanan has highlighted some of the history surrounding Africa, religious belief and spiritual practices that Africa has been doing centuries before we have even modern religious concept.
Yes, sir. So, the African has a very close and troubled connection with God. So, it's always an interesting discussion when we talk about God and talk about religion, especially coming from an African point of view, an African perspective. So, what are your views on God as it relates to the African?
So, as God has leads the Africans pre religion, right? Pre-religious concepts. If we look at recorded history of Africans coming through the earth, um, this so-called God, right, or this God that they were speaking about is everything. Everything was God, right? There was nothing in the African experience that was excluded from God. So, and we could see that through certain practices, rituals, that they left evidence of, right? Whether it's, when they did learn to write, right? So the experience itself is happening written language, right? It has to happen before writing, for example, before cuneiform, before hieroglyphics, right? So the experience must come before that. So we're looking at the evidence that they left through their journey on the earth, right? So the Africans are coming through earth, but they viewing everything as this God. And we can see it. They had burial practices. They had, they left certain signs, or they left uniform, or all of that, right? But the experience itself wasn't about God being separate from them. It was about everything being God. I think that's the initial understanding of those who predate religion or religious ideology. I think the experience is nature itself coming into being, right? And people who came later on after, right, in the journey, sometimes they label these cultures, they say they were primitive, right, in their practices, right? Sometimes you see archaeologists, for example, saying, oh well, they might have
Bingo.
worshipped trees.
Primitive.
Yeah.
Primitive mean first. So they were the
Yeah,
first one
absolutely.
to have done
Yes,
it.
yes,
So
yes.
I don't know why people are taking it in a negative light. To me, it's a positive thing.
Because
Yeah.
they don't understand what it really means, right? So even those who are conveying a message of an experience they never had because they have no connection to it, they too didn't know what it meant, right? So they say, hey, men were worshiping trees. Yeah, you know why? They saw God in that tree. There was nothing that was excluded from God. So God was represented in everything, which is still true, right? The concept of God, or even the word God, and remember, we're talking pre language being written, right? There was no concept of God, right? We say God today, right? Today, now modern man in his primordial state, had no such word as God. So the word itself comes later down in man's journey. He only had experiences. That's all man were having, were experiences.
As
How
cultures
did these?
as cultures change, we
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the God
That's
concept
that's all they were having.
came along.
Right.
Experiences. Yeah.
So, Yaga, what's your view on it?
Yeah.
Growing up as a little youth, going to Sunday school, going to churches, our concept of God was a white God because that was the image that we see in the churches, and we later found out that that's an image of Michelangelo that was commissioned by one of the Pope. That is our image of Jesus, the Son of God. But as we get older, we start to read, we start to see new information emerging, and we have access to more information. We realize that even before this time, Africa had its spiritual traditions that the community and the people practices, where they live in harmony with the plants, they live in harmony with the animals. They see God right in the midst of them because we are all gods. In this dispensation, we can see a big disconnect among the youths. The youths now, they have been exposed to the literature and their research is just like us. So they are very distant from the God concept, and the church has lost its appeal, it has lost its purpose and its place in the community, where the church used to influence discipline and a certain lifestyle within the community. With the youth are being seen as a big disconnect because they realize the concept of God that is being portrayed to them. They don't see themselves in that. And when Christians go to Jerusalem and those places and pilgrimage, and we see Islam in Mecca, we start to ask questions. Where do we go apart from joining in what is out there? What did we have? Where is our pilgrimage? Where is our traditions? Where is our spirituality? Where is our God? You know?
Yes, sir. Okavango, this, this,
Yeah.
this, um, should be very interesting. What's your views on this God as it relates to African people?
Yeah,
It's long awaited reveal.
so my views on African spirituality or religion is that spirituality in Africa is just like in everywhere else. It's not unique to the African continent. Understand? The people have always things that they don't understand about nature, things that they can't figure out how it works. They create something that say, okay, that's how God come into being. They create something that say, okay, God, God is the one that do it. All over the world, people how the art is done. They don't know how the rain is how the rain fall, what caused the rain to fall. God did it. It's not unique to the African continent. And those things, different different tribes, different communities, different people, different cultural practices have different deities for what? For whatever works for them, they have something that they create something that that coexist with what they are about in their cultural practices. So it's not a unique thing to Africa. Everywhere you go, every continent, everywhere, people have these practices. And as I said, when you look into it, it's always stuff that they don't understand. When they don't understand how nature works, they give it they say some deity or some say God. Because at first it wasn't God. They always have some deity that they say, okay, this is the person, or that is the person that is doing these things,
The
or
being, right?
making it. But it's a human thing. It's a human thing. God is a human creation. For whatever they don't understand, they give that credit to God. Or say God is the one that do it. Well, you see, as time get changed and people understand nature more, and people understand how things work, and and more, we talk about science, more science coming into things. We notice that people nowadays, because sometimes we wonder why people nowadays, is drifting away from God. But people are understanding some more things. They say, okay, this is what happened that caused the rain to fall. This is what happened that caused the sun to rise in the morning. You know what I mean? So people, you find that people are drifting away from the idea of God, and it's the same thing on the African continent. Yeah, so that's
Sorry.
what I think about African
Okay.
spirituality.
You make mention of a lack of understanding, and as a result of that, representing the inequalities or unklarities through a concept of a being, right? A deity, a God, right? To explain these uncertainties, right? Well, I would also add that I don't know necessarily if it's a lack of an understanding of it, as opposed to a unclear expression of it, because I believe that in the ancient time, in the ancient ways, I believe that they had a more clear understanding of nature than we do today, right? I believe they had a more clear understanding of nature than we do today, but I believe that in the expression of it, there was an unclarity or uncertainty in expressing it to us. Like, this is how it goes. So they use things to in an attempt to express it. But in terms of their understanding of it, they had a clear understanding of what was going on.
But so that maybe we mix up understanding with
Mm-hmm.
closer to nature. They were more closer to nature because they
Mm-hmm.
were more surrounded, and more into natural things. But the
Mm-hmm.
understanding of nature, this is not like a makeup thing. People
Mm-hmm.
back, 1,000 years ago, when these things were found, or even further, they didn't know that the earth was round. They didn't know the science in the rain falling. They didn't know this, you know what I mean? They didn't know those things.
Africans knew the
They
earth
knew
was
it.
round, man, and they measured
Yeah,
the
man.
they
They
knew this.
knew it, man.
They knew those things.
circumference, the
They
diameter
knew
of
it,
the earth
man.
to
They knew
They
it,
knew
man.
those
They
3
things.
knew it.
meter accuracy.
Before they
Yeah,
knew,
they
they
knew
didn't
it.
know, right? Before they knew,
They
they
knew
didn't
it.
know. Before they knew it, they didn't know it. They didn't know it.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Before they knew it, they didn't know it, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Before
Right.
they know it, they didn't know it. So at
Right.
some
Mm-hmm.
point they know it, right? And these practices are going on long before they know it. I
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
know certain things. Remember, even now, some things, or some things work, we are still just finding out,
Right. But
right?
what I'm saying is, what
And
I'm
it's
saying to
natural
the
things.
eye, what I'm saying to the eye is that all right, like for example, if we use a analogy of even Rastafari journey
Yeah,
today, right?
yeah,
The Rastaman in the hills cannot read, right? Cannot reason with certain ones and ones who just sit up in an anciency, sit up in the hills and a deal with nature, but a
yeah.
natural vibration, right? That one can come and explain to the eye many things about
Certain things
the
in nature
world and
because
things.
far right
Right.
close to nature. Far is
Right.
very
So,
close
so
to
this is
nature.
this
Yeah.
is the point where I make today where I say they
When to
always had that
plant and when
overstanding of
not
it.
to plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
They
Yeah, man.
always
Because
had that
they close to nature
overstanding
because
of it.
they know how nature works. But let me say, but I'm talking about the things that they did.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the things that they know. But
Mm-hmm.
there are also things that they didn't know, right?
Yeah, but
So
when we talking about God, how does we talking about God from the perspective of not religious identification or religious identification, but human experience, right?
son.
God is an experience, right? It as we say, as they say, it cannot be known. The reason why they say that is because there is no expression that could verbally come out of man to express God. So that's why
Because of
our forefathers, Okavango, they already
Uh-huh.
had this experience of God. So they left us a framework of what that experience is. The experience had nothing to do with religion, right? While we'll touch on religion, but it is a confirmed experience. And it
son.
goes through time. They say, hey, so when they did have the ability to write, they wrote it, right? And what they said was, hey, if you do this diligently and earnestly, this is what would happen. So they left you clear instructions on what to do to experience what they call God. For example, right? The rishis mapped the universe before they had instruments. So think about the experience. We're talking pre-religious ideology. These
Mm-hmm.
men living in that time are having within themselves and the universe that they could map the universe without instrumentation. So we're talking about experiences here, right? And out of those experiences is where we get this so-called written form of knowledge, right? Where we read things and so the experiences come first. So the primitive man was having a certain type of experience which evolved throughout time. But the base of that experience is always the same, you know. It doesn't change. Life is life then. The forms of life is what change, right? So life itself, those experiences as
A one
God
line.
doesn't change. Yeah.
A one line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bingo, I don't know if I missed something. I think I missed something. How does is that the riches?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How does the riches mapping the earth is tied to God? I didn't get
Because
that.
it's the experience of God when they say God, because they saying everything. They're not seeing God as an entity outside of themselves. They're seeing God as everything, including themselves, right? So through this experience, we're talking God experientially. We're not talking about God through religious ideology. We're talking how men experience God that gave them a certain ability to produce something then, to write something. So the ability to write, for example, is an experience within nature, right? The word A, for example, when a man wrote A, for example, it's based on what? Sound. So we're only talking about your interaction in this native period. That's what I'm talking about. I don't understand. You said you missed it, but it's the experience.
Yeah,
You were
because
saying,
The religious.
I'm saying what under that. Yeah, I'm saying for the regions to map. You said map the universe, right?
The
Yeah,
earth,
so that would
the
be
earth.
a study of nature, of how nature works,
yes, I.
So,
right? Yeah,
Yes.
but I'm saying where does God?
so okay, okay, all right. So now we're getting to a very key part of this God ideology thing, right?
Yes.
How do we view God? Do we view God as a external, separate being, or do we view God as a integral part of ourselves and everything around us? So if our view is of God is a external and separate view, then it would be like, oh, this have to do anything with God. But if our view of God is that it is integral to us and everything around us, then everything we do is of God. So this is the reason why the ones that show we must say, because of everything around the item in those times, when them cite God, God, this is before. And when we say religion, what we talk about is um structured,
Monotheistic religion.
not even monotheistic, structured, where people
Structured
establish
organization.
rules and
Yeah.
guidelines to say, this
Mhm.
is how you carry out this practice. We
Mhm.
are talking before those
Before that.
things. We are talking about where people were dealing with things at its core, at its purest form.
Mhm.
Mhm.
People saw this ideology because remember when we use the word God, the word God represents something. It
Yeah,
represents an idea, right? It represents an idea. And the idea that it represents is expressed in the word God. But God is not really what we're talking about. We're talking about the idea, or as Bingi expressed, the experience, right? So through that experience of everything around the ample them, being aware of nature, being aware of themselves, they were able to do these things. So that is what he must say. This is an experience of God, because this is something that them experience through themselves, through them surroundings, everything around them, studying nature, every aspect of our being, they were aware of. So that's why they were able to do that. And what that tells us is that once we attain that level, things that people see as impossible become possible. Because there's no longer a block preventing us from attaining our true selves.
No
And as
fear at
African,
all.
right, and as African people, I believe that the version of God that was taught to us, because this is why I
Right.
start the reasoning the way I always
Right.
start the reasoning. Forget the idea of views on God, because the version of God that was taught to us is a separate and external entity, something that is unattainable, something that is beyond us, something that we will never be able to understand or grasp. And because we were taught this, it locked us in a box that make it seem like things that are possible are now impossible. And this happened because of how they taught us about God, because them don't want to teach us of ourselves. So them teach us of God, quote
Mhm.
unquote God. Because when them teach us of this God, then that is something that Okabongo can do, because it's only God can do it. But
yeah.
in reality, is Okabongo can do it.
But that back to
Yes,
what
I.
Bingi was saying. You see, our view, what he,
Mm-hmm.
it's not God.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the natural self
Mm-hmm.
in your natural nature and just understanding nature. It doesn't have nothing to
Say,
do with no with nothing else different from you in nature and being a part of nature and understanding
so
That
why
nature.
is
that
that
is
not
true.
God?
That's
I
why.
mean, if hold on. So if
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to call you just understanding nature and being and becoming one with nature, you want to call that some God.
Uh-huh.
I don't think there's no we call that middleman in that. There's no middleman.
But
It's
this
just
this is
you.
the
But
point.
that's
This is
not.
the
But
reasoning.
I
This is the
think.
reasoning.
But wait. I pray the Ras. I think the I
Mm-hmm.
have a clear understanding of what I'm saying because I
Mm-hmm.
said pre man saying God. Everything I am dealing is
Mm-hmm.
pre-religious
Right.
understanding. So where
Right.
I'm coming from, it has no word called God.
God.
Oh God, right.
Right.
Yes, I. So there I have a clear understanding, a clear
Right.
understanding of what I'm saying.
But back to African spirituality. We're talking about
Mm.
African
That
spirituality.
is African
Mhm.
spirituality.
Yeah. And so we're talking about African spirituality, right? A lot
Yeah.
of African spirituality have a certain deity. They say, okay, this is
Right.
God and this is what God do.
Again,
Right.
is an
Perfect.
expression. Is an expression of the experience.
Yes,
The
I.
science is an so
I.
for example, if you're under the tree right now, right? Before them did have a word to say you are under the tree. You just used to go under the tree. You
Yeah.
understand? And the one them know say we just go under the tree. But for communicate that now, them create an expression to say go under the tree, right? So this experience, because before them say go under the tree, people did not go under the tree long before them a say it. You understand what? You see my dealing? Right.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the reasoning of God. And that's why we are bringing it forward again. For sure,
Yeah.
say the ones them
But
have overs say
uh
there is no separation between the I them and God. There's no middleman, as you say. Can you say it perfectly, Okapong? There is no middleman between the I
Absolutely.
them and God.
but
Because that
but me
experience.
that I will feel as though now can't picture God.
Eh? But nature is a part of God.
There's no God night, no
And
God
God
in
is
night.
nature.
There ain't no God not night. Just you and just nature.
All right. You see the issue here, so
I don't know
issue,
when a
you
God
see, the issue here is this, right? This is the
yeah.
issue.
Why
The issue
why
Right.
God
is that
it's not
no,
just nature. Why God come from? Why God come from? Where God
God,
this is
the
the
word.
issue. This is the issue. The issue is this. The word God. That are the block, you know. The block is the word
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Because our understanding of God is what was taught to us through a Eurocentric Christian ideology, a religious ideology. We have to disassociate God from humanity, from nature, from life, because of what was taught to us. But what we are said to the item say is that God is everything around us. As I want to if you even want to use the word God, I
so
want
that
to
me I
use
say
the
man,
word
I don't me
life,
I say
I
no,
use
come
the
no
word
understand me
nature.
yeah, where I
Right,
use
but
it.
what we are said to the eye say is, it's like, for example, if you have two different language and you use a word to represent the same thing in both languages. So, for example, school. Look at the word school, right? In a English is school, in a Spanish is escuela, right? But when we say the word, it represents the same thing.
And
So
Arabic it is
Maja.
Majas. Okay, got you. So all of these words are different words, but represent the same thing, the same experience. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we are bring forward to the INM to say, listen, God, how we were taught is not no separate being, no separate external entity outside of ourselves. It is everything around us, it is everything within us,
Yeah.
and nothing without us.
that.
I Ovans. The I
All right,
saying, right? Let me
listen
be
this.
clear. Is the I saying there is no even need for the word God.
Well, all right, hear this Benji. That was a while ago, right? Him say he use the language and whatever and say it's the same thing but different language and to get it
Right.
across, right? But he's saying that in African spirituality, right? There's no even need for the word God. But if you come to this God that we were talking about, and we talk about we use God in African spirituality and come use God over here, so it's two different things. You
Exactly,
can't use God the two of them.
exactly.
Yeah, so you can't use it because of language. You can't come use God over here, so it's because God where we get fish out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So once you say God,
And a
And our
religious
religion,
understanding.
yeah,
ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
those are the things
Mm-hmm.
that
They are
is
looking for
attached
life
to
after death
attached
But
under
to the
but
the
word
but
God.
but
religious
African
Those
ideology.
things attached to the
I
word
said,
God.
but
but all the
Africans
African,
African
but the African,
spirituality has nothing to do with religion, you know I am.
That's what I'm saying. But
Religion
once you
has
mention
nothing to do with
God,
African spirituality.
once you mention God, you're gone to religion, you're gone to, you know what I mean? Who make heaven
Yes.
and earth? who
Yeah.
in 7 years, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're going to do. So you, first thing you have to do is take all God out of it. And then now we can talk about African culture, African spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Oh,
What's
God
the
is
difference?
religious
so,
ideology.
so difficult for
When you need
us
to
to
know
have a conversation
Mm.
as African people. That is the biggest stumbling block,
One of the
where
biggest.
African people is not entertaining this discussion, this conversation about themselves and
Mm-hmm.
how we fit into the grand scheme of all
Of
of this.
things.
When what we are practicing now and might have begun in Africa, but as cultures change and as time change, we don't find ourselves with it anymore. But we hold
Mm.
on to it so deeply.
All right.
But what we
All right.
practicing now in the West,
Mm-hmm.
our forefathers never practiced that.
Never
It
practiced
had
that.
nothing
No.
to do with I and
No.
I.
All
It
right.
had
My
nothing to do with
have a
African
question. Pretty.
people.
So why are we so distant?
Because you were enslaved. That's why you're so indecent. And your minds have been enslaved. So because of that, you're distant. It's called the veil. You don't know. It's either you know or you don't know. Right now, African people in the West, they have
Don't
no
know.
knowledge of themselves, Aya. So for most human beings who live on this plane right now, they live in a dualistic reality. It's called this and that. So it's me and God. It have no such thing. It has
Yeah,
no such thing. It's called an illusion. That is why we disconnected. But this, what they present in the West, it have nothing to do with African spirituality at
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
all.
man.
At all.
I want to the more I mention, what another? One the more I mention, you see a lot of African spirituality from back then. When them hear about God from other places, they try to make their cultural aspect and their deity become the God. You know what I mean? So um the European God, you know what I mean, free into um you know what I mean, African spirituality. And they move away and start saying, okay, whatever,
It
you know what I
didn't
mean?
creep into it. Was forced.
No, I
It
say
didn't
like
creep into it. Was forced.
at one point it was African people, right?
Mm.
Thus their knowledge of nature and own nature were that
Mm-hmm.
was they practice it. But when they hear
Mm-hmm.
about Jesus Christ, whatever
Mm-hmm.
they were, whatever was their deity, now become the Jesus Christ. And it's not attach stuff that the European savior God to or whatever to
Uh,
their thing. And
it
then it
was
become
forced.
religion.
It was forced on them.
Well, whatever we want.
Not whatever way. It was forced on them. It was forced on them. Right. So, all right. So
I'm talking African participation.
when no way I say my lad, so when I show you I say this switch from African culture to Western ideology and Western culture, it wasn't something that African people just
No,
accept on them own.
I'm
It
talking
was
about
forced on them.
Western thinking into the culture. So the culture is there already, but them start put
Right,
Western thinking
right.
into it.
So I'm saying it was
And
forced on them.
I don't think that was forced though. I don't think that's bad information.
It was forced on them. Because watch out,
I don't
remember
know
say
how that work and
education is compulsory, you know. And when something compulsory is forced, you know. And most of these things are through education them teach us. Right? Even on a simplistic level like that. These things were forced on us, brother, even before them bring it in a
no,
education.
but
And I don't know what African people.
information is not compulsory. Information travel. So once it can affect you. Information, you know.
Yeah, but what we are saying is, my lad, a person not gonna give up them culture when them practice for thousands of years, just willingly, so brother. Something are forced on them.
All right, brother,
Accept, brother.
look on this. Look on this. One time I have a reason with somebody. I mean, a lot of Pan Africans have these views that
Mm-hmm.
you should stop. Like African people should stop worshiping Jesus, stop worshiping. You know, stop being Christian, stop being Muslim, stop being stop being Jews or Hebrews, and become a part of the African spirituality. Take up African spirituality as your, you know what I mean, as your
Religion.
God, right? You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
because that is what going to help us. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And I I said to him, like, where was these African gods? Like you talk because he was talking about them as God, right? I
Mhm.
said, where was the African God when Africa was suffering? Where was the African God when Africa was taken out of people were taken out of Africa was slave? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They didn't say about.
There
That
are
means
people
they're not God.
who believe
But,
that
uh,
these things should happen because we are cursed.
yeah,
I know.
All right,
because
before we
of that
go,
misunderstanding of that very term that you use
Mhm.
called
That's
God,
what I'm
right?
saying. That's what I'm
Man
saying.
is
You see
presumptuous.
forward, Indy? You see forward?
Eh?
They you see forward because they adopt the
the Western
European way.
ideology
Right.
of what God
You know what
is.
I'm
Mhm.
Yes,
Assimilate.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
But those things, African tribulation and African sufferation has nothing to do with the God.
no,
Not
you Marcus, know, in
No
response to what
man
you
do
said
that.
a
No
while ago,
man.
right? In response to what you said a while ago with the reason with you and the bridging, right? You're asking him, you're asking the bridging, where were these gods when these atrocities were happening, right?
Yeah.
It's based off of a Western ideology of God
right.
in again, you know.
Yes,
No.
So, my ideology,
You see, is you as the African is a Western
mhm,
and then
ideology
mhm,
of those gods. So that's why I
mhm.
have to ask him if these
Where were
gods
they?
can do what Western God do, why they
Mhm.
don't do it?
Right. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, you're asking him as well.
Yeah.
Where were they? Is a
Sure.
overstanding of it from a Western point of view again.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
see what I'm adding it?
yeah,
Because the indigenous never they look on an external force or external entity to do anything to solve any of their problems. Them know say, man know thyself, so therefore you have to solve your problems. You see my dealing?
greatest
So
commandment.
the ideology of a God go come and solve a problem that the eye is facing is a
When
Western ideology.
when the earth was made up of a system of governments of which religion was a part of it.
Mhm. But religion, right? And it's religion that project God, right? For
Mhm.
example, right? Think about what we're talking about. God, the word itself, right? Date back to the Mesha, right? The Mesha stele or whatever they call it. We're talking about 840 BC, right? When
Mhm.
we have the first recording of the word God,
God.
right?
Mhm.
So we saying prior to that word then, right?
Never
God,
even
man
exist.
was having experiences. That's
Right.
all he was having. When they had organized kingdom or start organizing religion, for example, they start using the word God. But that word that they use as God meant that there was now this creator, right, responsible for creation, right? So God was specific, right, when they start using the term itself in 840 BC, right? So God was this creator, external and man. He could do this, he could do that, the creation story, all of that, right? So that's where man culminated when he started having organized religion, right? And systems of government. But the reason why he's doing this now is very purposeful, even then. Is to control the masses, to get them into this one monotheistic
You.
ideology, right? Of thinking, right? Where you have this one God, you move from the multiple gods and stuff like that. So even that is purposeful. But when we talk about African experience is beyond that term itself. They use
Exactly.
as God. We
Mm.
predate that. When we deal
Mhm.
with African spirituality, we are no God. We are God.
Right.
Man
So
is God.
is man of
It are
right.
no
Man
God
of right.
external
Yeah.
a man. Man
Yeah.
is God.
What may I say is this for you, right? The word God See, the word God represent an experience,
Yes.
right? So this experience that it represents, let us take the word God and throw it in our garbage, right? Let us take the word God, throw it
Yes,
in our
let's do that.
garbage,
Let's do that.
right? Okay, let's
Yes.
talk about the experience now. Let's talk about the experience, right? Is that experience a necessary experience to humans and to Africa?
Is it necessary?
Yes.
It is part of the experience.
So is it a necessary experience?
It is the only experience you have.
All
You
right.
have no
So
other
so
experience.
so now, this is why now I said we forget about the word for a moment and think about the experience, because this is what we have to get to.
Yes.
To overs and no say
You are
the word is a stumbling block to I and I
yes.
because of
Yes.
the Western concept of it. What them
Yes.
teach you about this God. And
Mhm.
because we don't think about what the West teach you about this God, it's almost like it a take you away from the
You're fighting
experience.
it.
You see me
And we
arguing it?
don't need to know right
You're
from
I don't
wrong.
fighting
hear
it.
it, brother.
No.
I don't hear it if I know.
The word was taught to us like that. The word was taught to us like that.
Yeah,
Just like for example, right? A lot of Pan-Africanists will say we mustn't use the word Africa to represent Africa,
Yeah.
right?
oh,
But
yeah.
for communication purposes, we use the word Africa so that when we refer to this landmass, the people
Everybody
can
could.
know that this is the landmass that we are referring to. But we know that there are terminologies like the land of the black or Kemet.
Actual
You
land.
understand? Right. We know these terminologies exist,
Right.
which are more accurate towards the
Right.
land itself, right? But we're saying for communication purposes, we use the word Africa. So anyone with a reason when they wants them hear the word, them know exactly what we are dealing with. Now, when what we are trying to say is because we over said there is a disparity in the word God and what it's supposed to mean to us as African people. We are trying to bring the people in over first and foremost say it's not an external experience, it's an internal experience. That's the first thing we are trying to talk about. So when I think we mention the word God, we have said this yearning of humanity, because God is a yearning of humanity, is a search within human beings. We say, what is, like you said, initially, Okabongo, you said, it was a thing that they did not understand. So them come up with this term, we said this is what explains it, right? So this searching which still exists today, right? Which will forever exist
Exit.
because it's a human experience, right? Still exists, right? And if we now don't allow ourselves now to really understand that the response to it is internal and not external, because what them did was because them don't want to go in at the internal, them create an external response to it. Oh, this is that external thing that did it. But in reality, I and I do it. Anything what them can think about, what them want to ask and find out, I and I do it, brother. Human beings do it.
All
There
the
is
time.
nothing in the earth what happen where not human beings do, or animals do, or plants do, or life I do it. You get what I say? So it's not an external concept like what the West want to teach us about, quote unquote God, right? So what we are saying is we have to separate ourselves from that Western concept of this ideology. We have to look within ourselves
Yes,
as a
sir.
people,
So,
as a
so,
culture.
so Dada,
Mm.
you think of the West, the natural inquisitive nature of humans.
Mm-hmm.
You think of the West, make like Africans, I say, God create heaven and the earth, creation, the creation,
No.
it's a human,
Is
what
a
them a say,
is a human experience that are you talking
right?
about when you speak about creation? Because now you're talking about
Creation.
the search for why we are here as human
Why?
beings,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is
It's a human
natural.
thing. It's a
Yes.
Right.
human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
when we don't know about that, that's where God come into it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a
Mm-hmm.
human thing.
Is that
So,
Right.
we
so
don't want to
that's
know?
what
We don't know. We don't want to know about the physics. We don't want to know about the biology.
we are talking about before, you know what I mean? We are talking about the natural thinking, just without no
And
science, nothing like that.
Side.
You wonder,
Mm.
how the sun rises up behind the mountain.
right.
Yes,
The
side. We
mountain
agree with all of that. Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
So we are saying all the
And I was saying
ancient them.
earlier, when humans, and it's not unique to Africans, don't couldn't come up with an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
They allude things to a deity. Like I say, okay, the deity
Mm-hmm.
that caused those things.
Right. Okay, so you say it perfectly now, right? So what's the fullness of what we are said today, I know, right? So creation is an experience, right? The sun rising is an experience. All of these things, these questions, what mankind, humanity have our experiences, what them have got through.
Mm-hmm.
For provide explanation for these
For
experiences,
creation.
them not just creation, to provide who understand our explanation for these experiences, multiple experiences, them create a terminology. We say this is the terminology, right? That represents this entity, this experience, right? We look at it today and say, oh, it's a God. But when them a talk about it, them wasn't talking about no God or no external thing. Them a talk about something what happened within themselves. You see me I say, our understanding of it to the base of how them teach it is a bit like a external thing.
A perfect example would be in today's society, right? The we are moved to religion to represent pre-religious ideology. The oldest practice religion known to man today is still Hinduism, right?
Right.
You see a bunch of hundreds of deities, right?
Huh?
These deities, what they expressing is the experience from within a man, all of
Uh-huh.
them. So when
Uh-huh.
the man has this experience of an energy force, right?
Uh-huh.
He say, hey, God is Brahman.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why he's saying that he has experienced Brahman. So
Mm-hmm.
now he puts out an image of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's how deities come about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deities come about from priests who have experienced certain energy forces within nature. And how do
Uh-huh.
they express it? Through deification. And they say, hey, we know this to be true because we have experienced it. That's how deities come about, through men's experience of
Mm-hmm.
forces within this whole
Nature.
existence.
Mm-hmm.
Period. That's all
That.
deities represent. They represent thunder, lightning, wind, fire, earth. They representations of the same energy through
Mm-hmm.
different experiences called life.
Right. Right.
That's
Well,
what
see, I don't
deities are.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
why I don't think humans start say, you know what I mean, come up with the concept of God, say a God created the earth, created everything.
That God create the earth and he
Everything,
create the
everything.
heavens
And make everything happen. Yeah. God
and
created
makes
everything.
everything happen.
Yeah. Give me your thoughts right now.
So man is having this experience, right? And now we are talking about you only speaking from a point of view of written communication, right? So now we know that man, once he starts writing in any form, right? Whatever form it is, cuneiform, hieroglyphics, whatever form, he starts writing. But think about what he's writing about. He's writing about his experiences, right? So now he's writing about this external God that you're talking about, right? He's writing about why is he here? And he's writing about this so-called external God for being responsible for everything being here because he has no explanation why he's here or why everything else is here. So he creates something that is external of him that is responsible for all of this because it is called ignorance. Why it is called ignorance? He does not know. but yet he projects something as he does. Because we have no separation. There's nothing separated from anything. But that is why man has written that the creation stories are based on man wanting to know why everything else is here. He has no explanation. So what he does, he himself creates something external of him. Because if I'm to tell you right now, prove God. You're religious, you're whatever. You can't prove God to me because God is only an experience.
All right. I want to give the item because I want to give the item my creation, God creation theory, right? When I look at God and how God was created,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, man see a boat, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at a boat right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the boat was created. I was sitting on a bench right now. You see a bench? The bench was created. So most of the things that wasn't here and is here now, somebody created,
At
right?
some point.
At some point somebody created.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, so seems like everything that is here now, at some point it was created. But who could have created this big thing, this
Right.
big mountain? It have to be the biggest man ever. It has to be the wisest man ever. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be the smartest man ever to create this big thing. And I think that's where the God come from. Because man don't understand how things is done. So they give the credit to the biggest man, the wisest man, because that's what they know. That's they're looking
Mm-hmm.
at themselves as just a man, looking at just humanity alone, because they're not looking at nature. They're not looking at they're not the animals. Because everything that they have ever seen created, a man do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be a man that created
Mm-hmm.
the sun. It has to be a man that created the star. Because at some point they're thinking it. At some point, somebody must have done it.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
when we
So I'm saying all this human thinking of this thinking of God, it's just human curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about how things got here.
Right.
And
It started.
somebody
It
I don't
started
remember
with the
who said earlier,
council. The
but
council of
some things what I know. Some things nobody will never know everything and we will never know everything. And some things are just not known. Because I even have a question. Who tell them that everything was created? Who tell us that
It's
somebody created everything.
presumption. That is
It's presumption.
presumption. Yeah,
Nobody
that's
know that
presumption. Yes.
was created by something or
Yeah,
somebody. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
presumption.
mean? And something do it.
Yeah, yeah. But you're not
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
supposed to know. When the
Yeah,
fathers are writing, brother, the fathers are not writing to tell you to know God. They're saying experience God. It's
right
different.
now in this life right now.
Yeah, you're
In this
experiencing
life
it.
right
It's an
now. Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
And
what
think
you
about
just
this
said.
too, right? Before they even go on data, when the fathers are writing, they're writing up energy, right? But think about the principle of energy, that which cannot be created or
Or
destroyed.
destroy.
So there's no need for you to go beyond that. So they
And
already
it cannot
give
be
you
created.
what it is, cannot be
Yeah, it
created
cannot be
nor
created.
destroyed. So we're
All
not
right.
even talking about creation, brother. The fathers are not talking about no creation story, because then
Mhm.
if you're talking about creation, you're talking about a beginning. We have no
At the
beginning.
beginning. Right.
We have no
There's no
beginning.
beginning. There's no
No
beginning.
I.
Side.
No
No
I.
Side.
mind.
Side.
No I. We're not
But
No
you
talking
said
about
mind.
that.
perfectly, energy cannot be created or
No
destroyed. So it cannot
destroyed
be
higher. That is
created.
all the fathers are talking about. Energy higher. That is African spirituality.
Yes, sir. Yaga, what did I
No,
say?
that is spirituality.
Yes, and I understanding this came out of the Council of Nicaea in the early 300 and mark, where they've decided to instruct St. Augustine to formulate the context of the documents and put the Bible together. And since then we have seen where the Bible have gone through many translations, where the King James Version, because he doesn't want to follow the principles of the Roman Catholic, in instructing people them to write the King James Version because they want to have enough woman. And you know them man they not deal with them things, so it cause a split. But yet still, I said, things that go on from the earth, things that go on from the land, and different cultures, different civilization have their own thing, but yet still we are not trying to find what is our thing and embrace our thing.
Yeah. You see, what we have over is that within this experience that we are going through today, great effort has been put into separating us from ourselves. Great effort has been used to separate us from ourselves. And a lot of the stuff that are indigenous to the human experience, right? A lot of confusions have been attached to them for precisely that reason. Meaning, it is important for us to have this experience of God, right? So what they have done is they have created a confusion around God and what God is, right? Because there's a confusion around God and what God is, it caused a lot of people to even stay away from that just because of the confusion. But it does not take away from the significance of the experience that every human being has. And that is the experience that we're talking about when we are saying that experience, which their term them use God with the creator, the omnipotent, the omnipresent, the omniscient. All of these traits of a God, we are saying, exist within the I, and we are saying it is important for the I know them and experience them. You see me dealing?
And remember this too. There's no man alive that is not having that experience, right?
None.
For
Right.
example, today, even if your man just went out and killed another man, you're still having that experience, right? And think about what I talking about. We're not talking about religion. We're not talking about God who come down and strike man. We're not talking about
Most
them kind
time,
of thing, right? Them thing is nonsense, right?
Yes.
We're talking
yes,
about
man.
the experience of life
We're
itself. That is what
natural.
I talking about. So when
Uh,
I forefathers express spirituality, all them
that is
deal
what they
with
were
is
talking
life,
about. Right.
energy, higher,
That is what
energy.
they were
No.
talking about.
Like
I would
That
just
is
oh,
want,
what they were talking about.
just want to say, most time when people are talk about God this and God that, I really
Hmm.
they talk about nature. We are tell
Yes,
them,
sir.
if
yes,
you are a nature you talk about, go experience nature some more, man.
Hmm.
Go the river, go the
Hmm.
sea, open at the
yes,
hills
Hmm.
and the bog and the bush. You know what I mean? Plant a tree,
As you talk
plant
about
a
going to
tree.
these places,
You know what I mean?
Okabongo,
Plant a tree.
why I feel like you buy one of these things? Why, as you talk about going to experience these things, why I think that you're experiencing one of these things present?
Yeah, man, we are that. You know what I mean? We are inside the experience nature, you know?
Well,
Yeah, man, but I say, yeah, man. But
yes,
go out
I.
in a nature and become one because that's your
Know
home.
it. Know
That's
thyself,
your
man. That
home.
are the
The
man
fundamental,
know
man.
frequency,
Know
thyself,
thyself, man.
the
Know
man know
frequency, the
thyself.
thyself.
feel and the
Yeah,
concrete, anything the block you're thinking. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
block up your all your surrounding is, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Some,
But yeah, but for the ones who
And
they
listening
natural
call that,
still,
things.
right?
they call that, man.
For
Concentrated.
I viewers who listen to I and give I strength still, right? We people who listen to all I on this drug class, we must understand basic ideology in understanding oneself, right? Now we must challenge ourselves to what we've been taught and start having real conversations within I self. But first, we must understand our basic nature. I want to share something with the item. Everyone listening is earth, wind, fire, water, akasha, ether, right? All the elements that make up the universe. All I. So if that is our basic human structure, we know that we are the universe. So we must understand basic principles about our human structure. Our human structure in the universe, and the universe is I and I.
It's one thing, man. It's one
One
universe,
thing,
one thing, one
one
life.
thing. Yes,
And
And
sir.
there's no
and and
and
and as Okabongo said earlier, because of that misunderstanding, them
Yes,
create
sir.
a terminology to express it as God.
Yes,
So we are
sir.
trying to reconnect the item now to know
Yes,
say
sir.
this thing what we talk of as God is
Mhm.
really talking of the I themselves.
So,
You
one God.
understand? It is talking right. You
Yeah,
see me?
man. One
yeah.
So
God, right?
that are the point that we are talking about.
Yeah, man.
Nice, nice,
One God.
nice, nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Confusion, got a confusion and and
Yes, sir.
segregation. But
Mm.
so when they got attached to attached to
And the other point here too is all I discussing is pre-religion. We're not
Mm-hmm.
dealing with religion. We're dealing with experience.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is separation. We're not dealing with that. We will deal with it. But we're dealing with what the fathers meant by what they wrote. Religion arose out of these teachings.
Yes, sir.
The fathers who are writing these things had nothing to do with religion. So
Mm.
that's something separate altogether.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
man, give thanks.
Yes, sir. As we close our discussion, it is evident that the African concept of God is one of balance, deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature, the wisdom of ancestors, and the sacredness of community. In African spirituality, God is not a distant figure, but one whose presence is felt in every aspect of life, from the fertility of the land to the guidance of the ancestors. This holistic approach to the understanding the divine reflects a worldview that sees the spiritual and material worlds as interconnected, where God, nature, and humanity coexist in harmony. By appreciating the African perspective on God, we embrace a deeper understanding of spirituality that honors life's interconnectedness, where the divine is not just above us, but within and around us, shaping every moment of existence. Selah.
Yes.
Yes, I. So that are the real point. Out of the reason what we really want the item to know is that these things what we look on as external to us is really internal to us, and we need to realize that and go discover that internal force, that internal strength, that internal power within the item, and stop looking outside. Yeah, and that way I say, you see me,
Yeah.
unapologetically.
Yes.
You see me.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
This has been another perfect balance track class. Big up Yaga, big up Bingy, big up Okabongo, the Rebel Guru. I
Yeah,
Give
am
man.
thanks.
Ras Dada. Yeah,
The
man.
rebel guru
Remember
bring
to
out the
like, share,
traitor
and
and a
subscribe.
star. Bring
Remember
it.
to
Yeah,
like,
man.
share, and
Okay, go on.
subscribe.
Yeah.
No
Remember
thing.
to
Thank
like,
you
share,
enough.
and subscribe. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. And thanks for all of you who have subscribed, getting us to 300. Remember, we're on the road to 1K, and we're moving stride by stride towards that. Once we get that number,
Organically.
I believe that organically, organically,
Yeah,
yes,
man.
naturally, you know.
Everything
Yeah.
organic.
Once
Every
we get
September
to the
organic.
1K, another thing that we want to implement in the third class is a live section. So if that is something you're interested in being a part of, then you have to get on board with the drive up, getting us to 1,000, getting us to 1K. And then once we're doing that, then we can make this an interactive reasoning where everyone can be a part of it currently. Give thanks for the moment, give thanks for life, give thanks to the mighty life giver. Man of right are God in flesh, woman of right are goddess in flesh. Live up, be strong, hold it.
Grand
You're
Yeah.
up.
rising.